Welcome everybody to another episode of Indie Inquiries, where we review indie game store pages and provide you with advice for the best ways to market and show your game on Steam. As always, if you're interested in submitting a store page for a future show, please get in touch with us. I am of course Josh Placer, and my co-host is Robert Leach. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. It's good to see you again.
We miss a week of recording, but we still have a healthy backlog of games to get through.
Nice.
So we are going to be doing for this week's episode the game Dracula's Castle. So this looks to be some kind of mix of turn-based strategy, maybe some light sim aspects, and our grades are going to be, I guess, as mysterious as Dracula this week.
That's true.
So let's start, as always, with the thumbnail. So this is a tough one for me. I feel like part of it is good. I like the moon. I like the text of Dracula. I think those two elements really stand out. But then everything else around it, it's just not working for me.
Yeah, I agree with you there, and maybe it's just my poor eyesight as I age slowly. But I like the fact that it pops out. The Draculas, the castle. I don't like that. Like you say, the two words kind of conflict with one another. But I like the moon. I like the fact that I can read it, and that's where I'm at there.
hmm Now, for those of you watching this right now, the kind of black blob behind Dracula, that is supposed to be a castle. There's actually like a little tower, if you can make it out at like the bottom right corner of the moon. And I feel it's just too blurry. Like it's just not distinctive or detailed enough for it to matter. And like you said, you can tell they're trying to distinguish between Dracula's and Castle with the two different fonts, but it's just too much of a difference. I think it like one looks very professional and one doesn't.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, as we get further down, we see that that font is actually used. It looks like a hand-drawn castle here, and that's what I initially thought it was, but it
hmm
turns out that is a font as well, and the two conflict. The thing I do like, and you mentioned the tower, but again, as I look at the thing, it's much smaller in my screen, and so
hmm
maybe that's kind of the reason I'm being generous. Is that to me, it looks like a stylistic smear,
hmm
just kind of like a I wouldn't say a Jackson Pollock, but like, just kind of this back and forth. It's got this stylistic kind of streakiness, and then you got Dracula on top of it, you got the moon on top of it. But yeah, you mentioned the castle, and then I would have to like zoom in really close to make that, as a look like a feature to me. So,
hmm
being just going off of my first like how I see it when I come onto the page, it looks all right. Like I'm not mad at it
hmm
as it goes.
Yeah, I kind of zoomed it in a little bit more. I try to make it as full for people to see as possible. It looks like a touch better when it's zoomed in, just because you can see a little bit more detail. Like I can make out like another tower above the D,
Mhm.
but it's just way too abstract. I think. Like again, like the moon is, I think, going to draw your eye to this thumbnail, and then to Dracula's, but. And I think this could just be from the fact that I've seen or I've reviewed way more store pages than Rob at this point,
Yeah.
but it's just not doing it for me.
Yeah, and once we do, because down the bottom of the page, you get a much clearer view of it,
hmm
and that's more where I'm gonna give it some hits. But yeah, here I'm certainly I would say way more generous than
Yeah.
possibly I should be. But
Yeah. So we go back over here. Like for me, I was kind of like going between like a D plus and a C minus, and I'm still, I think, in that territory. Like I'm not sure where I'll actually list it like in the grade after the show, but I think D plus C minus is going to be for me for this grade.
yeah, and I can certainly see that perspective. I again went very generous here because it caught my eye. It's something that
hmm
it's pretty descriptive. Dracula's castle. I'm gonna forgive that font issue for right now and give it a B minus. So I am. I'm going above average here.
All right, but our grades will definitely be going all over the place for this one. But
Yeah.
again, the mystery is where we'll land at the
Where
end.
yes. Stay tuned.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to go full screen here. Make sure that everyone can see it. And here is the trailer. Right? And that is that. Back to the normal screen. I'll let this just like play while we're talking.
So
So this one, it starts off, I think, okay. He has a really nice like cold opening. You can see the different cuts, but I think as it goes on, it definitely raises some red flags for me. There's not a lot of, I think, distinctive moments that we're seeing in this trailer. Like nothing that we can really like put our finger on and say, "Wow, this is gameplay for it."
yeah, and I certainly see that, and I feel like where we differ here is that I put it all on like I'm going to give this a teaser trailer kind of
Mm-hmm.
perspective. It is very short. That music does impact you right off the bat, and it does give you a variety of very different in-game uh,
Mm-hmm.
clips, and none of them seemed to match. But for me, it was enough to draw me in and be like, okay, I'm gonna keep reading about this game. I'm kind of intrigued. I love the dice roll. I love
Mm-hmm.
the isometric, the battle sequence. So for me, that sharpness, the videos I feel like we've seen in the past tend to be long and have unnecessary logos at the beginning and kind
Mm-hmm.
of just go on a little too much and focus too much on things that we don't care about. But here it's just snappy, 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 and that I appreciated. But
Mm-hmm.
again, we'll talk more about
Mm-hmm.
the rest of that afterwards. But
Yeah. Another thing I think for me for this trailer is when we get to about the 19-second mark or 18-second mark, and you see like the coming soon and the wish list on Steam. Like it just looks very much stamped on, and it really I think clashes with everything else that's on the page.
yeah, and that's unfortunate. You brought that up, and I was like, oh yeah. As someone who's a viewer, as someone who's looking to buy a game, at that point, I'm like, okay, I got what I want. Let me move on.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a full third of the video. It's over 10 seconds long from that slate onwards. And you're
Mm-hmm.
right, the text doesn't match very well.
Mm-hmm.
So on that end of things, they do fail in their editing. They fail in that like attention to detail that I felt was there with regards to matching the music to the initial action, that kind of like animated sequence interspersed with little gameplay bits. I feel like there was a tension there, and then it's just kind of falls off. And for me, that's kind of a theme for the rest of the review.
Yeah. I mean, I like the like transforming bat into Dracula, like the what was it, like the
Cool.
18-17 second mark there.
Mhm.
But then there's also like just 2 seconds of nothing at the end. That's not like damning this to heck and back, but it's still just like another knock against this trailer overall for me.
Yeah, and again, I see that perspective really well. From the angle I took, I'm feeling way more generous towards this. I
Hmm.
feel it is sharp. It's to the point, and that by itself gives me that benefit, that higher grade.
Yeah, for me, I definitely can't give this in the B range, that's for sure, just because of all the issues I have with it. Like, it's not a horrible trailer. I mean, I've seen some really bad trailers. I think Rob is starting to, like, gaze into the abyss with some of the shows that we've done.
Yeah.
But it's not bad, but it does concern me. And so, because of that, I'll be at least a little bit more generous. I then will give it a C minus.
Okay. Oh man, I feel like I should move a little bit. I'm gonna hold to the B minus that I originally said earlier. I'm
Hmm.
gonna just stick by that right now because I'm not so happy with the rest of it. So this is my last bit of
Hmm.
generosity. B
We're
minus.
we're playing good cop, bad cop for this review, and the rules are going to be switching very
Yeah,
wildly as we go through this.
yeah.
All right, so let's get to the images here. Let me zoom in a little bit more. So we have 11 images. However, as we go through these, a few of them look very much like they're from the trailer. Like here's the throne room, which we saw zoomed in the trailer, but still, it's just very nondescript. We have what looks like some management stuff. Like 4 and 5 look very similar. Again, we have maybe a little bit difference with the Dracula image right there. We have the map that's definitely at least featured in the trailer number 6. We have a journal, the departure again. Dracula is here. We don't know what that means. There's the dice rolling number 10. And it looks like 3 nondescript people that we can drink or seduce at the very end. Now, one thing off the bat that I find just like very much standing out in the bad way, there's no images of the tactical layer.
Yeah, for sure. That was honestly my favorite part of the trailer. It's the part of it that made me feel like, okay, I like this gameplay view. It's got that kind of turn-based RPG feel for me, and it
Hmm.
seems to tie in with that card that had the dice on it. But
Hmm.
I don't learn anything more about it at all. It's not shown here. It makes me feel like, well, maybe it's not a major part of the gameplay
Hmm.
like I was hoping.
Yeah. And again, like if you're going to do images and for this section, you want to best represent what your game is going to be. And not having that when it's featured in the trailer, or in if that's a teaser or a full trailer, we don't know, is I think a big knock. At least it is for me.
Hmm.
I mean, all in all, again, like when we review the images, we're not reviewing like the quality of like the aesthetics and stuff like that. We're just reviewing like what they're showing.
Yeah, yeah.
I
And
can't. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, the one thing that gets me most is that side view of the castle, and I understand that feels like it's the core mechanic that you're
Hmm.
building this castle, but all those shots look the same to me, and it
Hmm.
doesn't really like you see that throne room at the top of the castle in the first screenshot, but
Hmm.
there's no real like story told. It seems to go in kind of an inverse sequence or
Hmm.
whatever, but it doesn't tell me anything. It's just like, okay, here's some rooms, and it looks like a zoomed out version of a game map in progress.
Yeah.
It yeah.
And another thing I want to point out, we look at the second image where you can actually see like the forest, the mountain, and the moon in the background.
Hmm.
That background, I think, juxtaposed to kind of the castle and to the other thing, like I think that would be a better background image for the actual thumbnail or the
Oh yeah,
capsule.
good point. For sure, yeah.
So I mean, they have I think some good elements, but I don't feel like they're using it all to the best of their ability.
Yeah. That is 100% agreed.
Yeah, so like if we go back again, like going the long way back to the thumbnail, I would definitely, as a suggestion, use something similar to like the second image with like the mountain as your backdrop, just to give it a little bit more, I think, detail and it making something a little bit more colorful.
Yeah,
So
it is very monotonous.
So, image wise, for me, they at least meet having 5 different images. That is, bare minimum. Uh, I don't feel like there's enough bad here to get into the D range. I think I'm just going to go C minus for the images.
Yeah, and this is where our paths start to cross because I'm at a C minus as well. There's those elements that I was hoping to get more information on that's not here.
Hmm.
The stuff that I did get information on before just seems to be reiterating that to me, like the die roll thing.
Hmm.
Very cool action in the trailer. It's obviously a card, I believe, but it doesn't. Maybe it's not a card. I can't tell what's going on there.
Yeah.
So it's tough for me to give it higher than a C minus here.
Mm. All right. So let's go down to the about this game section. So right off the bat, we have again the Dracula castle, and you can see there's more gray. You can see almost make out a bit of a castle and like the grayer parts behind DRA. So I mean that still looks better to me than the thumbnail.
Yes.
So definitely they need to improve on that. But as we go down, all of you watching this are probably noticing something.
Or not noticing
Yeah.
something.
We have no images and we have no GIFs. And I think going forward, if you don't have GIFs, you are automatically like out of the B range. Like you will not be able to get there. And then images are going to take it down further. But we'll get to that point in a minute. We have a Discord, like the little Discord screenshot. That's not bad. It's
Yeah, it
not
looks nice.
amazing, but
Mhm.
it's still we have like a nice little white, gray, black. But that should really be at the top of this store page, or at the top of this about this game section.
And it's actually that graphic that you mentioned from those other screenshots. It's that background with the moon. It's like, hey, you
Mm-hmm.
should use that for that's exactly where it was pulled from, it looks like. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it should be at the top. You're right.
Yeah. So paragraph wise, they're good. We say like almost, four full lines, maybe going to five just a little bit is like enough for text. I like you like here's like the funny thing. Like they're using the same font as Castle for these words. And it looks better here, I think, by the fact that it's not being compared to the fancier font for Dracula.
Hmm. Yeah, it's not contrasting with anything. You're absolutely right. It looks way better
Mm-hmm.
unto itself down here than at the top. Kind of, I feel like forcing that image of Dracula as this old fancy kind of character
Mm-hmm.
instead of embracing. Okay, I'm going with the blood side of things.
Yeah.
Um,
So we definitely again have some big issues. This store page or this about this game section, it's telling a lot of stuff, but it's not showing it. And this is where you go to view more information about your game. You're trying to figure out, okay, am I going to like this game or not? And you're getting very little actual information.
Yeah, and then I just want to draw this out or point this out again is that when you go up to that top where the Dracula's castle is, right beneath it, it says about Dracula's castle.
Hmm.
And that's a third font they're using, and it's hard to read. It's
Yeah,
dark red, it's on top of a dark gray background, so there's
yeah.
no
The
contrast.
the R looks like an A. It looks like
It does.
Dracula's castle.
Dracula.
Yeah, so this is one that is not going to get a high score. Like I said, if you don't have images and you don't have GIFs, that just knocks the page down dramatically.
Mhm.
For me, I guess my big suggestion then, again, GIFs and images. For every one of these sections, there should be a corresponding visual element to show me what this is. For the building, show me, a room being constructed. Exploration, show moving on the map. Customizing, again, just show what these things are trying to describe, and that will give your game a clearer picture.
Yes, I am 100% on board. I would have loved to see all that stuff.
Hmm. So, for me, grade wise, it's definitely not getting into the C. That's, completely out of the question. It's not in F. Like, I will give it some style points for having the Discord banner, for having, the custom banner for Explore and Customize. But now that you mention, like, I was still looking at it as I even mentioned or see the Dracula over there. Um, I think I'm gonna go maybe D minus D in that range.
I'm there with you. I'm actually retroactively mad about the next section. So I'm sticking to D minus. it doesn't have the images. It doesn't really build upon the screenshots we have seen or the video.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of doesn't know. I guess it's that minimum effort.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah, there's images with that font. That's obviously not a Steam supported font.
Mm-hmm.
So why didn't you put in a different image? Why didn't you put in something more descriptive? So yeah.
All right. And so as you can see, our grades are starting to equalize here as we get near
Yeah.
the end. So let's go to the title card. And this was something that Rob pointed out that I didn't even notice, but it does beg to be mentioned. We have up here, in terms of the content, you have single player, online co op, LAN co op. There is no mention of multiplayer literally anywhere else on this page. We did not see that.
Yeah. That's
And
what I'm mad at.
yeah, and that is a huge feature, especially when we're talking about a strategy or, RPG style game. So, if this is true and this game does feature online or land based co op, it needs to be shown somewhere. It definitely should be in the About This Game section.
Definitely. Yeah, it should absolutely be there, especially since someone's going to be searching for I like online co-op games. Um uh they're going to search for that term and this is going to show up in there. I mean, obviously not
Mm-hmm.
as high up as you'd like, but it's there so when someone wants an online co-op game and they click on this, either they're going to buy it and be fooled if it's not there, or they're not going to see it mentioned anywhere else and just move on.
Yep.
I don't like that. It feels like a bit of a lie to me, looking at it right now.
Mm-hmm. Now, as we come down to the title card itself, we have 4 tags, which is good. Again, we say minimum is 3. And they have 3 really good ones with RPG, simulation, and strategy. They could include, again, single player, multiplayer. Again, with the genre tags, the more the better.
Yeah, if this indie does have multiplayer, I'm that's a big deal. For there aren't a lot of games that work well multiplayer, and if I like playing multiplayer games, which I do on occasion, I would like to see how that works here.
Yep.
And it should be in genre. It should be in About This Game. Announce that thing.
Yep. So we go down here. So another knock. As we said, you have a Discord. That's what this whole little banner down here is. It needs to be in the title card as well. Now, the website we visited, it is not the best one for showing this game off, but there is another big point. When we went onto the press kit for this game, they have a Twitter, they have social media contacts, and there is nothing listed here about it, and that's another big no-no.
Yeah, absolutely. And also on their webpage, they have GIFs. There that have these
Mm-hmm.
animated like sections of gameplay. So leverage that. You have it. Put it on here. Just if you have it, definitely put it on there. Don't ignore something that you have free immediate access to.
Yep. So so the title card starts out good with the genre tags, but then it just goes down. Because again, if your website isn't like phenomenal, then it's better not to include it here than to include it just to check off a list.
Yeah.
So I think I may actually go a little bit meaner than what I originally said for the title card. Again, like it starts out average with the genre tags, or maybe just slightly above it, but then everything else just knocks it down and knocks it down. Uh, yeah, I think the fact that, as you said, like they have GIFs, they have all this content on the site, that they could leverage that to make the store page better, and they're not doing that. I think I'm going to have to go with a D for this.
Yeah, I'm gonna meet you at D for this one too.
Hmm. So now we come to the final grade, and this is where it gets all tricky in terms of our scoring. So for me, I started out at a C minus for the trailer, and then everything else is either a C minus, or just one thing's a C minus, or everything else is in the D range. Like, I'm tough. I'm kind of torn between if it's enough to move it down or not. And I think as we've been talking about this, and we found more issues, we found more things that are definitely affecting the quality of this page. I think I'm going to have to knock it down at least one, and take it down to a D plus for me.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with a D, as well, knocking it slightly down further,
Mm-hmm.
just because the thing that gets me mostly is that I did start off strong, and I thought,
Mm-hmm.
it might not have been the greatest trailer, might not be the greatest title card, but it got me hooked enough to look at the
Mm-hmm.
page. And it's not a trailer that's going to get me to buy it outright, but it was a trailer that made me look further. And the further I looked, the more I
Yeah.
didn't want to buy it, the more I,
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to pass on it. And for me, that was worse than just kind of it all being consistently not great.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so yeah, a D for me.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry, but I feel like there are a lot of improvements that could be made and bring that grade up.
Yeah, and I think you just said what I was about to get to. Like, there's a lot that they have that they could rejigger this entire store page. They could
Yeah,
improve things, and definitely, I think, get this out of the D range. I think even just changing the thumbnail alone would do wonders for it. And again, if you have the GIFs, you have the images, use them on the About This Game page.
yeah.
Because, I mean, hell, if they just use, even if they just put static images for each one of these sections, that would probably bump it up just without anything else to maybe a C.
Yeah, I could see it going higher if there was additional effort put in. Like, make
Mm-hmm.
sure that that online is referenced somewhere. Add another video. Make sure those screenshots are more diverse, and emphasize the things that take the player on a bit of a story.
Mm-hmm.
Emphasize those things that the player is going to be doing, um, and don't forget about things you put in the trailer. So it is. There's a lot of potential here. A lot of reason to keep a player intrigued and interested, and maybe even wishlist it,
Mm-hmm.
if not better. But yeah, you have the tools. Just implement it. Yeah,
Yeah. Just some very slight renovation would go a long way for this one.
absolutely. Hmm.
But I think that is going to do it. So, yeah, unfortunately, not getting a high score from us for this week. And as always, we're still looking for, especially for Rob, we need to get at least an A so that
Yeah.
Rob can restore his faith in the store pages.
Yes. Yeah. I want to see those indie developers who put that effort forth, start to finish. That finishing aspect in launching your game is huge. So that's a
Hmm.
big deal. Make it right.
Hmm. So again, if you are a developer, you want to take a look at your store page, see if you can earn that A, or maybe even I only even have an S rated for a store page yet, then get in touch. You'll find my links and such in the description down below. There's my Patreon, Discord, and Twitter up there. And for you, Rob, do you have anything to update us
I
with in
do.
terms? Ooh.
I do. Yes. Okay. So I'm going to be getting social media shortly. I've got a website going, 4gr.games. And then check out my YouTube channel, Fourth Gen Robot. And I'm going to be having some videos up there shortly. So I am now growing my presence, and I have to walk the walk, as it were, that I've been talking this whole time on these reviews. So call me on my antics if I don't follow through.
Hmm. And I'll include links to all Rob's stuff in the description down below as well. Alright, so that is going to do it for Indie Inquiries this week. As always, do the liking, subscribing, and commenting. Check out all those links. Get us some more store page submissions if you would like. And come back for daily discussions on game design here and on game wisdom, where some of the art and science of games. And until our next show, have a great night.